All right, the Dak Prescott contract news emerged on Monday night. Still not official yet, but no reason to think it won't be. 4 years, $160 million. Let's talk a little bit, Chris, about what impact this is going to have on the team. My understanding is they are bracing for bigger cap problems next year,
right?
Not this year. And I think that Amari Cooper definitely will be gone next year. Because that 5-year, $100 million contract is really a 2-year, $40 million contract. This is year 2. After this year, they can walk away with minimal cap consequence, no guaranteed money, trade him, cut him, and it'll probably trade him because a $20 million a year receiver is going to be very difficult to trade. I think he's done after this year. I think that's the easiest takeaway for me from the Dak Prescott contract. The easiest way to shed cap dollars is to move on from Cooper because you've got CeeDee Lamb. You've got Michael Gallup. You've got other guys who can play the position for a lot less than $20 million a year.
No doubt. They're set up that way. I think first off, I think you're spot on with the Amari Cooper thing. I would imagine there's a good chance that this is his last year at the Dallas Cowboys. The contract, it sets up the way you explained it exactly right. They can get out of it with minimal damage. He does have a little bit of an injury history. We know that. It seems to be always something. 2 years ago, there was a lot of nagging lower leg injuries and whatever else. That was underwhelming. So he's always had to deal with that. And I think the bottom line is, what you're talking about. They are plentiful at the wide receiver position. It's pretty special. You just said those two guys, okay, and then you get into, Cedric Wilson. He's a hell of a player for them. They got other options at wide receiver. Even Noah Brown isn't horrible for them. There's plenty there, but you're right. I just think within that, I would see Amari Cooper being gone. And, you brought up Zeke Elliott. That's another one. I have a hard time. I would think this is the last year for Zeke Elliott with the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the problem for the Cowboys.
Because of the option, and right?
Well, it's not the option. It's the rolling guarantees that become vested 1 year early.
Right.
His salary for 2022 becomes fully guaranteed March of 2021. That's the way you do a contract. A lot of these contracts, it becomes fully guaranteed March of the year that the salary is due to be paid, so it gives the team a chance to get out of it. Well, the Cowboys, if they get out of it now, they still owe him this year's salary, which is actually more than next year's salary. I think this year's is actually a little bit less. But either way, his salary for this year is already guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if you cut him to avoid next year's, you still owe him this year's. So if you keep him, you owe him next year's and this year's. And I think ideally you'd like to try to trade him, but who's going to take on 2 years for about $21 million?
No.
I don't think anybody will.
No, this is going to be a tough decision for them.
What about Urban Meyer? And a guy who knows Ezekiel Elliott very well. Now, he's got James Robinson at a peanuts contract because he was undrafted out of Illinois State. Would you that's a lot. You got the cap space, but that's a lot to dump into your running back position. But, boy, you bring Trevor Lawrence to town and you got Ezekiel Elliott banging the ball between the tackles. That makes life a little easier for your quarterback.
I get that, but I don't think I could live with keeping him at that number or trading for him with that number. I couldn't do that right now. We just have the graphic that just before this on the bottom of the screen said he's got the highest cap number of all the running backs in football this year. That doesn't match up. Mike, I don't know. Decisions are tough. Maybe they have to look at Zeke Elliott and go, cut you, or we got to restructure the contract. Go ahead, see what else is out there. But we'll offer you more than anybody else will maybe right now, but it just can't be at this number going forward. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how Dallas can make it work. So that's where I wouldn't be shocked if we start to hear those type of rumors here in the next few weeks. I would not want to be committed to paying Zeke Elliott big money for 2022. That would be the big issue. And I remember that aspect of the contract. That's the thing we liked about it, right? Because it kind of it put the Cowboys in a handcuff, every March to go, wait, we're committing for 2 years down the road here. What are we going to do? They do have a pretty damn good running back behind him. I don't think it's that big of a fall off at this point of Zeke Elliott's career. And I don't like saying this, just so everybody knows, because I respect Zeke Elliott a whole lot, but I'm just talking business in the NFL here, and I think this could be a real possibility here over the next few weeks.
Okay, here are the specific numbers,
Yeah.
so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, cool.
$9.6 million salary this year, fully guaranteed already.
Right.
Next year, $12.4 million becomes fully guaranteed later this month.
Oof.
So they're looking at $22 million fully guaranteed to Ezekiel Elliott if they have him on the roster later this month, or 9.6 if they let him go right now, or if they trade him right now. And also, trading him now would create a $14.9 million cap charge. Cutting him with the post-June 1 designation has a $4.1 million cap charge. Trading him after June 1, $4.1 million cap charge. They've got some flexibility. They've got some possibilities, but their hands are tied because of that contract that fully vests next year, 2022 salary in March of this year. He's in a great position, and all he has to do is sit back and say, hey, my contract is what it is. You want to tear it up, that's fine. You owe me $9.6 million for this year either way, and if you hold me until the end of the month, you owe me $22 million over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I that would be a stunner. I've been trying to spot the stunner. There's going to be, I feel like there's going to be one where we say, holy crap. And think of it from a PR standpoint. From Dak's perspective, if you sign Dak and you turn around and cut Ezekiel Elliott, doesn't that set Dak up for a lot of extra criticism? That because of your contract, your teammate got cut, your friend got cut, the guy that you came into the league. Remember when they were rookies? We didn't know which guy was the rookie of the year. It was one or the other.
Right.
There was talk one or the other was the MVP that year. They had a great rookie
been.
season in 2016.
Right. Yeah.
But the point is, if they have to turn around and say see you later to Ezekiel Elliott now to avoid the extra $12.4 million in guaranteed salary for next year, it's going to be tough for Dak. He's already got pressure on him by virtue of the new contract. If Zeke is gone and they're relegated to someone else at tailback, that's not going to be good for anybody. But that may be their only way out of this mess, especially if they're concerned about the cap hit next year.
I think that's the big thing. It's about next year. That's where I don't think I could swallow that pill if I'm the Dallas Cowboys. I don't. And, to your point, listen, there'll be a few guys in the locker room that'll say that. Okay, I'm sure. But the reality of the situation, most of the guys who really get the NFL and how it goes, they're not going to look at it and go, it's Dak Prescott's fault. They're going to go, no, it's Zeke Elliott's fault. He just hasn't played as well. That's all there is to it. There's just been too many runs like we talked about over the last 2 years where there's too much meat left on the bone, where you go, yeah, okay, that was a 15-yard run, but he's the highest paid running back in football, and it was one guy that tackled him. And I'd go, yeah, that 15-yard run was good, but if we took Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry or Alvin Kamara, I promised you that same run would have been 45 yards or 50 yards, or Dalvin Cook might have hit his head on the goalpost like Derrick Henry. And that's the difference. See, that's where people get a little lost in stats sometimes and things. It's not always about what your stat was. It's about what did you leave on the field, too, that you have to take into account. And to me, that's the biggest issue with Zeke right now. And I really don't like saying it because he's a car crash runner who's killed himself and plays a tough brand of football. But unfortunately, as we know, it's a brutal position, and it does seem like it's starting to go downhill in a hurry. And if I'm Dallas, I'm parting ways with Zeke Elliott.
Have you seen enough from Tony Pollard that you're comfortable with him taking over that job?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I like what I see. I mean, there's times where you turn on games last year and you go, well, I'm not sure Tony Pollard's not better. I'm not sure he can't take, advantage of more of what's there to be had at this point. Yeah, maybe he can't smash his head and shoulders in there, which would be a 3-yard gain, and Zeke gets 5 or 6. Tony Pollard probably only gets the 3 or 4-yard gain. But it's the other plays where I look at when he gets on the edge or there's a hole where I go, I'm not sure Tony Pollard can't take advantage of more at this point than Zeke Elliott can. And like you've said so many times, the Cowboys got the Jones family, they got a pretty good eye for talent. To where I would think they think, hey, we can get another stud running back in here to go along with Tony Pollard, and if we part ways with Zeke Elliott.
In hindsight, though, you think about 2019.
Yeah.
Disastrous business year for the Dallas Cowboys. They blew their chance to get Dak Prescott for a hell of a lot less than $40 million a year, and they never should have paid Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, in hindsight, we were banging the drum for Ezekiel Elliott. We supported him through his holdout. Get paid. Get paid. From the player's perspective, get paid. From the team's perspective, you got to know when to say, we're not paying.
That's right.
Whether it's the Rams, we're not paying Jared Goff, and the Packers are trying to work that now with Aaron Jones, to get back to what we talked about last hour.
Yeah, right.
They don't want to get caught up in the idea that Aaron Jones has been a great tailback for us for 4 years, and he's got superstar potential. He's a big part of the team. We can find another running back. We're not going to overpay for the running back who is currently on our roster, and the Ezekiel Elliott situation would be maybe the first thing that Brian Gutekunst points to if anyone within the organization says, how can you take this chance? Because we're not going to be the team that is strapped with a tailback contract that we wish we hadn't entered into.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, yeah, we were banging the drum. I mean, we're pro player that way. You're right. And at the time, the team was kind of orchestrated around him. He had been the one to make it go. We were the ones just saying, like, Zeke, now's the time to hold out and get the money. It's Dallas's job to figure out the conversation about how much money, how long the contract is, and all of that. And it's on them to know, wait, how much does he realistically have in the tank? Do we really think he's going to be still a top 3, top 4, top 5 running back 2-3 years down the road? That's where they made a little mistake here. There's no doubt about it. But I think rather than compound that, and with some of the issues they have on their roster altogether, that to me would be the move. And it's going to create a splash, but I think it might be a necessary one for the Dallas Cowboys.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.